And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. How can we explain the origin of the universe? Ancient myths describe sequences of creative actions by one or several gods who would bring light, order, and beauty out of initial darkness and chaos. In the last few hundred years, we have developed a new way to explore the universe: science. And its discoveries are far more fascinating than any of those creation myths. Science has found that the universe did have a beginning, but certainly not out of chaos. All the evidence indicates that the universe emerged as a tiny dot of pure and simple energy out of nothing, in a process scientists call the Big Bang. With virtually infinite temperature and infinite density, that little dot contained all the energy, all the time, and all the space that will ever be. Nobody properly understands this yet, but we do know that since then, nothing else has ever been created. The Big Bang happened so long ago that the number of years defies our imagination. But we can get some idea of the time scale involved by using this rope as a timeline, where every millimeter represents 1,000,000 years. This end of the rope is the beginning of time, the Big Bang. The length of this rope is nearly 14,000 millimeters, representing 14,000 million years. This is all the time that has ever been, and here is today. But how did we get from the pure energy of the Big Bang to the complex universe that we see today without anything else being created? The answer involves an amazing transformation followed by a very long sequence of assembly processes. Ever since the Big Bang, the universe has been expanding and cooling down. A tiny fraction of a second later, where the temperature was still millions of degrees, the primordial transformation takes place. The pure energy condenses into a handful of tiny particles. 3 of them will be the elementary building blocks of the entire universe that we can see, including ourselves. These elementary building blocks are called the up quark, the down quark, and the electron. A fraction of a second later, we have the first assembly process. The quarks are combined in threes, forming protons and neutrons. Only a few seconds later, the temperature is down to a few hundreds of millions of degrees, allowing protons and neutrons to join together in a process called nuclear fusion. In a few more minutes, the temperature falls below about 10 million degrees, too low for nuclear fusion to continue. The expanding cloud contains free protons, alpha particles, which are 2 protons and 2 neutrons together, and free electrons. After nearly 500,000 years, the temperature has fallen to 3,000 degrees, giving way to the third assembly process. The electrons are trapped by protons and alpha particles to form the first atoms of the universe, hydrogen and helium. all these events take place in the first 500,000 years of the universe, equivalent to the first 0.5 millimeter in our timeline. So really, all these pictures belong here. Now, for the next 400 million years, the universe is an expanding cloud of hydrogen and helium, getting cooler and darker, and nothing much happens. These are known as the dark ages of the universe. A few million years later, the dark cloud breaks into billions of smaller clouds that collapse under their own weight. As they collapse, the pressure increases and the temperatures in their cores reach millions of degrees, triggering nuclear fusion reactions that release a lot of energy. This is how the very first stars emerge from the dark universe. Deep inside them, stars provide stable environments for the assembly of larger numbers of protons and neutrons, resulting in the nuclei of future atoms of carbon, oxygen, calcium, and so on. Eventually, stars run out of fuel, and the very massive ones end their lives in cataclysmic supernova explosions. These explosions provide additional energy for the assembly of even larger numbers of protons and neutrons, forming the nuclei of heavy atoms like silver, gold, uranium, and the resulting clouds are enriched with all this chemistry, and they will drift for hundreds of millions of years until they collapse again to form new generations of stars. In many cases, once the star is formed, the leftover material condenses to form smaller and cooler bodies called planets. This is the case with our solar system, which forms when the universe is more than 9,000 million years old. The primeval Earth was like a vision of hell, a greenhouse planet immersed in a dense cloud of carbon dioxide and other nasty chemicals coming out of countless volcanic eruptions. These conditions are ideal for atoms of carbon to take the process of assembly even further and link with millions of other atoms and form complex molecules like DNA. The DNA molecule is able to self-replicate and to confine itself inside cells, living cells called prokaryotes or bacteria. Primitive living cells appear very soon after the formation of the Earth, and some of them are able to use the light from the sun in a reaction called photosynthesis that for 2,000 million years take the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and replace it with free oxygen. The greenhouse effect is drastically reduced. The Earth becomes a living paradise with liquid water on its surface. A few more hundreds of millions of years, and our assembly process takes yet another significant step. Some bacteria get together to form more complex cells called eukaryotes. One more step, and the eukaryotic cells join together to form the first plants and animals. 500 million years ago, which is 500 millimeters along our timeline, we have the ammonites. From here, life on Earth really takes off. Dinosaurs appear 250 million years later, and their extinction gave way to the mammals 65 million years ago. 65 million years, equivalent to 65 millimeters, along our timeline. The assembly process achieves its maximum degree of complexity with the human brain, an intricate network of 200,000 million eukaryotic cells that we call neurons. And remember, all made out of nothing else but quarks and electrons. This is our origin, and this is today. The distance between these two images is the thickness of this piece of paper. And look at the length of our timeline in the context of the thickness of this piece of paper, equivalent to 200,000 years. Plenty of time to accommodate the entire history of humankind.